everybody. Welcome back to the Blind Gooner. Welcome to this very special transfer show. And I've got a very special guest with me today, Fabrizio Romano. How are you doing, Fabrizio?
Hello. I'm okay. Thank you for the invitation. Big pleasure to be together. I'm okay. A bit relaxed now after the transfer window, but always ready to find updates if we have.
Yeah, and I guess it's a bit of an odd time to be talking about transfers because we have just seen the window closed, and not a lot going on. Not many major deals going on. Just tell us how difficult it has been for clubs to do business under these conditions. With the pandemic and then the lack of finances that are out there.
This has been really complicated for big clubs in particular, because as you know, obviously big clubs are having problems in, like, for example, they are paying salaries to their top players, but they are losing money from the stadium, from the sponsor, from the merchandising. So it's been really a difficult window for top clubs. And I think it will be also next summer if we want to be back in normality. So it will depend by the pandemic situation, also our transfer market next summer. So we will see what's going on. But at the moment, in January, we can say there's been really, in my opinion, one of the most difficult transfer window ever. So it's been really difficult for top clubs in particular, because for middle table clubs or small clubs, they always can find a solution. They don't have big salaries, so it's different. Also because they can sell one player and fix the problems. But for top clubs, it's been really complicated. So some clubs have been smart with saving salaries and everything, but hasn't been so easy. So really complicated, I would say, this winter.
Yeah, and a lot of Arsenal fans, including myself, have in the past just think it's a problem with Arsenal, but it's not. It's every club, isn't it? It's every single club, whether in the English Premier League or over there in Italy or in Spain, all having the same problems.
Yes, it's absolutely the same in all countries. As you mentioned, it's not just about Arsenal or English clubs. It's the same in Italy because, as you say, Juventus have not signed any player. Inter have not signed any player. Only AC Milan, but it was a free agent like Mandzukic and on loan deal with Tomori. And Roma have not signed any player, apart from Reynolds. And Napoli, no players. In the same in Spain, look at Barcelona and Real Madrid. They are not doing anything. And the same for Bayern Munich. And the same for Paris Saint-Germain. So it's been really difficult also because paying salaries, also a loan fee, also if you don't want to buy players on a permanent deal, but also loan fee have been really complicated. So that's why I would say it's not just about Arsenal, about English football or something like this. It would be like we have to understand that the situation is general and not only related about one club. So in my opinion, Arsenal have been one of the smartest club in the world in this winter, just because they have saved salary with a lot of players like Socrates and Mustafi and Ozil and more. And they've signed the top talent like Odegaard. So I would say that Arsenal have been really, in my opinion, one of the best clubs in this winter.
Yeah, and how would you assess Arsenal's transfer business in January? I know we didn't really have a lot in the way of incomings, but outgoings.
Yes, I would say, in my opinion, they've been really good just because, saving salaries, as I mentioned, with players like Socrates, Ozil, Mustafi, and also loan players sent out like Saliba and the situation of Kolasinac. They have done really something interesting, in my opinion. And signing the talent is also something to say, okay, it's been a complicated window, but we are signing a top talent for the future like Odegaard. Okay, it's a loan, but they will have a possibility of talking with Real Madrid next summer and deciding about this future. So, in my opinion, I would say it wasn't so easy for Arsenal. Edu did an amazing job because being alone in the club and working about selling players, terminating contracts, and signing new players is never so easy, in particular with this pandemic situation. But they've been great. And so I would say that Edu did an amazing job this winter, really. And what I would mention is look at a lot of top clubs are having problems in selling players, because buying players sometimes could be easy. You go with money and you pay. So it's not so difficult, but sometimes it's difficult to sell players. And look at Barcelona and look at Italian clubs, and also Inter were looking to sell Eriksen and they didn't. And a lot of clubs have this kind of opportunity, but they didn't sold any players. So selling players in this winter was the key, and Arsenal being one of the only clubs to do it.
Yeah. One of the biggest outgoings in January was Mesut Ozil. I just want to ask you, why do you think the relationship broke down between Arsenal and Mesut Ozil in the last year of his, pretty much since Mikel Arteta took over? So I was just wondering, what have you been hearing?
It was a complicated situation. It was a complicated situation because, first of all, I won't say that it's a problem directly with Arteta, but Mesut had problems in the last years. He wanted to play. He wasn't a starter. So with this kind of players, in my opinion, you arrive at the point when you know that you had to separate and to change. That's what happened. It wasn't about only personal with Arteta or something like this. It was like the time to change for Mesut to be back to be the star of his team. The Fenerbahce was the only one option in this moment because moving to the MLS wasn't a priority for the player. Will be something interesting for the future, but at the moment, he only had the priority of joining Fenerbahce. So that's why, in my opinion, it's not personal with Arteta. I won't say it's fault of Arteta, it's fault of Ozil. Simply after a lot of years spent not as a star, Mesut wanted to change, and Arteta understood the situation. And having a player who is not doing so well in training just because his mind is a transfer market was part of the game of saying, okay, Mesut, you're out just because we're going to fix the situation in January, and that's what they did. So, in my opinion, wasn't an easy situation because we're talking about a fantastic player, but it wasn't a fight with Arteta. It was the end of an era for Ozil and Arsenal. That's it.
Yeah, I've said on many streams before that I think it was best for all parties. I think Mesut needed a new challenge, and I think as a club, Arsenal needed to move on and maybe look to the future.
Yes, that's it. And I think they've been really smart also with this move because keeping this player with his salary and not playing and not having a positive atmosphere around the club, also because when this kind of players are not happy, you're having a problem also in trainings and in the dressing room. So going with this idea, in my opinion, has been the best decision for Ozil himself and for Arsenal, obviously. So yes, it was the end between Arsenal and Ozil, and I'm sure he will be great with Fenerbahce, but Arsenal are thinking to the future. Ozil is part of the past of the club. They were needing something different, going with Odegaard, going with young players, with talented players, coming from Real Madrid, so also having the experience of a top club as Arsenal has been really smart, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just looking at the rest of our transfer business, we know that Mustafi and Socrates also left. What was the situation with those guys? Was it just a case of, because I know Arsenal had an overload of players, and I know Mikel Arteta spoke quite honestly about trying to get players out the door.
Yes, also with Socrates, the situation was since last summer complicated just because he was one step away from joining Napoli. If Napoli would have sold Koulibaly to Manchester City, Socrates would have been the replacement for Napoli. So it was like a done deal ready to be completed, but the deal for Koulibaly to Manchester City collapsed, and that's why Socrates stays at Arsenal. Then this winter, they told him they wanted to change, and also Socrates wanted to change. He had the possibility with Liverpool, with Jurgen Klopp, just because basically they met when they were at Borussia Dortmund, so he was offered to Liverpool at the start of the window, but Liverpool were going for different players. And the situation with Arsenal was completely over. So that's why he said, okay, give me my time. We're terminating the contract. Then I'm going to decide. He had proposals from Betis, from Genoa, from a lot of clubs. He decided to come back in Greece. And he was one of the players, as you mentioned, out from the project. So in this kind of situation is part of the game of changing. And in my opinion, Arsenal are doing something really interesting because they want to change. They want to start a new chapter, and they were needing this kind of situation also with Mustafi himself and not only with Socrates.
Yeah, and we did make a signing, Martin Odegaard. How do you think he will do at Arsenal, and what can we as Arsenal fans expect from him?
In my opinion, he's a great talent. I'm curious to see him in the Premier League because it's totally different from La Liga, so it's another world. He's been really, in my opinion, it's been so interesting to see this kind of guy, so young guy, saying, okay, I want to move to Arsenal on loan and not joining Real Sociedad. He was one step away from joining Real Sociedad again, a club who knows everything about him. He was perfect in Real Sociedad. He was performing. So it was so easy to say, okay, I'm coming back to Real Sociedad. in my comfort zone, and I'm sure about my future. But he wanted to try something different, to prove himself in the Premier League, to show his skills in a top club like Arsenal. So in totally different context. And in my opinion, this is the best decision, just because moving to the Premier League and showing who you are at Arsenal is not so easy. So we will see if this guy is the talent that we know. I'm sure, yes, just because we're talking about a good guy focused on football and not on private life, this kind of things. He's really focused on football, typical from Norwegian players. And he has talents, he has skills. So, and he's the perfect quality midfielder that Arsenal were looking for. So, in my opinion, it's been a smart move. I'm really curious to say about him, but I'm sure that he will be great.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that still need to be sorted out. So Lucas Torreira, what's the situation with Lucas Torreira? Because we know that he went to Atletico. It didn't quite work out. What is Arsenal's feelings surrounding Lucas Torreira, and what's his future looking like?
For sure, the situation with Atletico is not easy, because they were hoping for Lucas to play and to be a starter at Atletico Madrid, and he's not. So this first 6 months of the experience at Atletico Madrid on loan have been really poor from Torreira. To say by a personal point of view, I'm really surprised, because I love Torreira. I'm Italian, so I saw him playing in the Serie A with Sampdoria. He was one of the best midfielders we had in Serie A for 2 or 3 seasons. So really, I like this player. But I think in the second part of the season, what I'm told, Arsenal hope that the situation could change with Atletico Madrid, because they are playing also in the Champions League and they're fighting to win La Liga. So they will have a lot of matches, and for sure Torreira will have his space. Cholo Simeone will be open to give him some new opportunity. So it's up to the player, but I think the situation will be fixed with Torreira, but it will be really difficult to see Atletico buying him on a permanent deal next summer. So I think he will be back at Arsenal, and we will see what Arsenal will decide with him. But for sure, I heard a lot of rumors about Fiorentina and about Monaco and about a lot of clubs in January. It wasn't true, just because always Atletico Madrid have said the player is staying here. He's not moving. He's staying. We will give him opportunities in the second part of the season. So now it's time for Torreira to show again who he is also in the La Liga.
Yeah. And obviously, what would the preferred situation be for Arsenal? Would they like to take him back, or would they like to see him move on a permanent deal, if it's not to Atletico, but to another club?
In my opinion, it's a totally open situation. To be honest, I'm told that Arsenal have not had any decision at the moment with Torreira. They are waiting for the end of the season. Then they will decide with Mikel about what's the best decision to take for Torreira. It will depend also by the table for Arsenal. If they're playing Europa League or more in the coming weeks, we'll know. But for next season, they have still to plan. They will go planning like in March and April, not before than this. So they will decide like in April for Torreira. And they are also open. Last summer, they were open to try for some opportunity to sell him on a permanent deal. But you have also to listen to the player, just because he wants to be sure about his next step after this difficult season at Atletico Madrid. So it's an open situation. Next summer, we will know more. From April, when Arsenal will plan for the next season, we will know more about Torreira too.
Yeah, that's I guess we'll just have to wait and see with Torreira, because I know he was a big fan's favourite at Arsenal, and a lot of Arsenal fans really, really liked his hardworking, and
I love him too.
Yeah, he's very, very hardworking, and a lot of fans are sad to see him go, and a lot of fans would have loved to see him partner Thomas Partey. That would be a formidable midfield.
In my opinion, it's possible. I won't say that it is impossible. It's only that they have to decide about, if they are going to sign another midfielder next summer. If not, what's the idea of Lucas also, because you have also to talk with the player and to understand after this difficult season if he wants to come back from Atletico Madrid to Arsenal and trying to be back at top level with Arsenal. So it's an open situation, but I agree with you. By personal point of view, as I mentioned, at Sampdoria, he was an amazing player, and at Arsenal too. So we're talking about a good guy, a great worker, a professional guy. So it would be interesting to see him with Thomas. I agree, because they are two great midfielders, but with different skills. So it would be like really good to see them both together. Let's see next summer. But at the moment, Arsenal are open with Torreira. So also Arteta is open with Torreira. So next summer they will decide together with the player and with his agent.
Yeah, and another player that's gone on loan this season is Matteo Guendouzi. What's the situation with him?
He will be back in the summer. They will discuss with Hertha Berlin about his future and if they will have other opportunities. But we had rumors about possibilities of him leaving the club, Hertha Berlin, in January to come back to Arsenal. And it wasn't true, just because Hertha always say they want the player to keep the player and more. But next summer is so similar to the Torreira one, just because they want to decide next summer. From April, they will have a meeting. They always do like this at Arsenal. So they will decide like together about the future of players like Torreira and the same Matteo Guendouzi and more. So in the coming weeks, we will know more. But at the moment, Hertha Berlin are happy with the player. But I think he will be back at Arsenal next summer, yes.
And do Arsenal want him back? Because there were rumours of a breakdown with Matteo Guendouzi's attitude in the training ground, and there was an incident, a game against Brighton. So what's Arsenal's viewpoint on Guendouzi?
They appreciate the talent, they appreciate the player. They were thinking that he was needing to be like a starter and not just one of the midfielders. So to be an important player, and that's what's going on with Hertha Berlin. They are happy with the attitude with Hertha Berlin. For sure, in trainings they had problems, as we know, with Arsenal. But when a player comes back, a lot of situation could change. So Arsenal are really open also with Matteo, with Torreira. I think next summer they will plan with both and decide about who's staying and who's leaving the club. Also, the contract situation of Guendouzi is an important one because they can't have any risk of losing him for free. So they have to decide with the player also about this. There's a lot of clubs interested in, because from the La Liga in France and a lot of clubs in England too, they are looking at Guendouzi's possibility for the next season. But at the moment, Arsenal have not made any season. Hertha Berlin are so happy with them. Also, the board of Hertha Berlin are so happy. So it's a totally open situation for Guendouzi as with Torreira. But in my opinion, there is nothing personal with Arteta. That's what I'm told. He's so open with both players, so it's up to them more than to Arsenal.
Yeah. Another player who's coming in the summer will be down to his the last year of his contract is Lacazette. What's going to happen with Lacazette? Do Arsenal want to keep him, or is he going to be one of the players that we move on in the summer?
And this is an interesting situation because last summer he had an opportunity with Atletico Madrid. He was one of the options. Then they decided to sign different players. And for sure, the situation of his contract is like, okay, or we are extending the contract next summer, or the player is leaving, just because they can't have the risk of losing him for free. So let's see also for Italian clubs, because Lacazette was appreciated also by Juventus. At the moment, they are happy with Morata, but they were thinking to him last year. So they have some possibilities. Also for him, they will decide next summer, but the situation of Lacazette is so related to his contract. So if he wants to extend his contract, it's different. But at the moment, the situation is that Arsenal are happy with his performances, his mentality also in training, because I'm told that he's training so well in the last weeks and everything. But for sure, at the moment, if he doesn't extend his contract, he's probably leaving the club next summer. So we will see if some clubs will be back. But Atletico now are happy with their players. They signed Dembélé. Juventus signed Morata. So it should be some different club and no more Atletico Madrid or Juventus. So let's see next summer, because for sure he could be one of the interesting names about upcoming player for Arsenal.
Yeah. And just from a personal point of view, if he does leave, what would, in your personal opinion, what would be his likely destination?
I think he won't be in the Premier League, just because he always had this desire of playing like in Italy or in Spain or changing. So I think if he leaves, will be like this. But I'm told that at the moment, Lacazette is so happy with Arsenal life. He's been key in the difficult moment to help the club to be back at winning and be back at top level. So at the moment, he's not thinking, okay, I'm going to leave Arsenal 100%. He's professional, so he's thinking to the club. But for sure, he would love to stay. It will depend by his contract. That's the situation. And about other countries, as I mentioned, Italy, he was open with Juventus. Atletico Madrid, he was open with Atleti. So for sure, he could be a name for next summer. But at the moment, the situation is really quiet, just because the player, as I mentioned, is so professional and he's happy to stay at Arsenal.
Yeah. Just looking ahead to the summer, what can we expect from Arsenal? Well, I know it's going to be a massive, massive summer transfer window. So what possible incomings could we expect? What deals could be visited in the summer?
That's a good question, just because I don't know names at the moment, obviously, just because They have not decided yet, so it will depend by the table, by the budget, and everything. So it's an open situation. I would say it will depend, in particular, from the pandemic situation, because if you are still in the situation with the stadium without fans and everything, with this budget, it will be really difficult to do big moves for all clubs and not just for Arsenal. If we will be back in a normal situation, and we hope yes, for sure it will be different. So also Arsenal can look, for example, to a new midfielder. They will look for this kind of player. For a new centre-back, probably yes too. They need also left back, like a backup option. So they have some opportunities, and they will look to this kind of situation. And for sure, also about Ceballos and Odegaard, they need to meet with Real Madrid and to decide about these two players they have on loan. So it will be so interesting about the situation in general, because with the pandemic, it would be really complicated for top clubs to do big moves. But if we are back to normality, in my opinion, it would be an interesting transfer market next summer.
Yeah, and I've just got one, because I know we're running out of time. So I've just got one final question for you, because this comes up a lot when I talk to other Arsenal fans, and it's a hot topic of discussion. Does it have any influence whether a club is in the Champions League or not in the Champions League in terms of a player wanting to join the club?
Yes. It is a big influence, in my opinion. Yes, it's so important today. A lot of players, in particular when they are moving from top clubs to another top club, they want to play the Champions League. So this is so important. Arsenal are lucky because they have the history. Also, if they don't have the Champions League right now, they have the history. The club is a top club forever. So it's like AC Milan. They're not playing the Champions League since 10 years, but they are still an important club with a lot of players ready to join. So Arsenal don't have a big problem with this one. But for sure, when you are trying to sign top players, this is something important to have the Champions League, because top players want to play the Champions League always.
Yeah, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Fabrizio, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I want to thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Really big pleasure, and always available for you when you want, and good luck for the season with Arsenal.
Thank you, and I would love to get you back on in the summer when all this madness kicks off.
Great.
And it would be, see what news you have for us then.
Thank you. Perfect. See you in the summer soon.
Thank you. Okay, guys, that is the end of the show. Listen, do remember to hit the like button on your way out. Do subscribe if you are new to the channel. And until next time, guys, take care for now.